So this is a really incredible panel. I'm going to introduce everyone. The common denominator, I think, on this panel is that all of us have really, we're all survivors of political persecution of some form or another. And we've all really, I mean, everyone in this room is a survivor. I think the business of life is surviving, and hopefully more than that, thriving. But as far as everyone on this panel has really been on the front lines in some way or the other, whether it's being, growing up in the open air prison that is Gaza, being shot, being wrongfully imprisoned, being detained in an immigrant detention center, or being part of the system of mass incarceration in the U.S. So it's an incredible panel, and we will start with Saed Bannoura, and Saed is a pioneering Palestinian journalist who helped implement the first up-to-the-minute English language news service operating within the occupied Palestinian territories in 2003. The International Middle East Media Center is what it's called, and you can find that online at www.imemc.org, provides daily news articles and audio reports. His journalism experience dates back to 1989, when as a 16-year-old he began a regular column reporting on the daily incidents of violence during the first Palestinian Intifada. Despite being shot by Israeli special forces in 1991 and confined to a wheelchair, he's continued his commitment to fair and accurate reporting of the Israel-Palestine conflict with a focus on international audiences. He's reported extensively on long-term hunger strikes of Palestinian prisoners and the conditions faced by detainees. To my right, I have Jose Moreno. Jose was one of the main organizers of the March 7th hunger strike at the Northwest Detention Center in Tacoma, Washington. Recently released, Jose has been organizing to support the strike and to stop detentions. He's joined the No Not One More campaign and has become the spokesperson for those still inside the detention center. And lastly, we have Kimberly Mays. Welcome, Kimberly. Kimberly's a parent who's turned her personal experience in the criminal justice and child welfare system, as well as her current education, into a passionate mission to influence better policies for children and families involved in both of these systems. Kimberly's been arrested almost 50 times, has 23 felony convictions on her record, has been to prison, and has lost her parental rights to 9 of her children through the child welfare dependency court system. She now holds an AA degree in human services, a bachelor's in public policy, and a master's of public administration degree, all earned in just 5.5 years. Woo, I thought I was busy. Kimberly currently works for King County Juvenile Court, administering the Parents for Parents program, P4P, which she designed for King County 5 years ago. So let's start with Saed. Let's welcome Saed.
Thank you very much. I'm really pleased and honored to be here, and thank you all for coming. It's my personal belief and that all struggles around the world are connected in some way, shape, or form. The injustice and oppression, whenever it's practiced by a country against prisoners, it should impact us all. We should all be moved, and we should all try to end it. As Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I want to start by a small introduction. Of course, thank you for the intro. And being a Palestinian who grew up in Palestine, like a teenager when the first Palestinian uprising started, seeing the army surrounding our school, invading our school, arresting students. I remember one time, they just invaded the school and they brought a bus and they asked us to line up. and there was one Israeli security officer who was like walking among us in line, and he was like counting 1, 2, 3, you stand up, 1, 2, 3, stand up. And every person that he asked to stand up was then rounded up in the bus and taken away. So that was my first experiences with that. And then later on, I got arrested for a short time. And then after that, I was, a few months after I was released, I was shot by the undercover forces of the Israeli army in 1991. I was shot 5 times, 4 times in my chest, 1 time in my back, and a couple of bullets that, you know, just grazed my shoulder and my chin. And then when I fell onto the ground, the soldier attacked me, and because I fell face down, so he kicked me to flip me into my back, broke 3 of my ribs, and the last thing I heard from him before I lost consciousness was, after all what we did, and you're still alive. And I'm alive, so thank you. Of course, I work for the International Middle East Media Center. You can find us on the web, imemc.org. And we write in English, focusing on Palestine and the conflict. And we also, I wrote a lot of reports about the prisoners. I want to start with a fast and most recent report of 2014 by the Ahrar Center for Detainees Studies. So this year alone, the Israeli forces killed 12 Palestinians and kidnapped. We use the term kidnap, not arrest, because we believe that as Palestinians living under occupation, then the Israeli military forces that are occupying Palestine have no legitimacy to conduct arrests. There have been 1,059 Palestinians kidnapped since the beginning of this year. And this is a sort of a shy estimate because we have daily arrests and daily invasions, so the numbers go up, mainly up, they rarely go down. But that's the situation. We have also around 800,000 Palestinians who have experienced imprisonment by the Israeli forces since Israel illegally occupied the West Bank, the Gaza Strip, and East Jerusalem in 1967. We have around 5,000 Palestinians who are currently in prison, facing different sorts of violations and abuse. Including among those prisoners, there are also women and children, mothers. I'm talking about mothers, about sisters. I'm talking about you know, any person. Like when the children, for instance, are kidnapped and imprisoned, their families aren't allowed to be present during interrogation. Lawyers aren't allowed to be present. I mean, like in my experience, I never saw a lawyer. I have friends who have been under interrogation for between 30 days to 6 months, and they've never seen a lawyer. So it's all illegal. Among that, of course, we have seen the repeated hunger strikes conducted by Palestinian political prisoners, including what seems to be a hunger strike that is about to happen. There are plans for an upcoming hunger strike, especially among Palestinian administrative detainees. And the term administrative detainee refers to prisoners who are held by Israel without charges, and without real trial. A military judge usually sentenced them to 3 months, 6 months, and then those kind of orders keep renewing without any legal process. And so there have been talk of another hunger strike. I mean, we have seen hunger strikers like Samer al-Isawi, who held hunger strike for around 6 months. And those violations, as long as those violations are ongoing, there will be a strike. And if we want to talk in general about the conflict and why is all of this happening, I mean, as long as there is occupation and as long as there is oppression, there's gonna be a revolution. There's gonna be people who want to change, and I think that people in general, like Palestinians and Israelis, there are a lot of people who want to talk, you know, who want to get together, who want to find a solution to that. But it's my personal opinion that politicians really don't seek solutions. They seek policies, and they just seek to implement their own agendas. And to be fair, I mean, right now, I don't think that there are a lot of people who trust that anything will come out from direct political negotiations, if we can call them negotiations, between Israel and the Palestinians, because you have an occupying force and an occupied nation, and they are holding negotiations, you know, under this umbrella, you know. We are the people, like Israel talks with the Palestinians, like we are the people who have the power, who are occupying your country, and we're gonna keep building and expanding our illegitimate settlements, and you just have to take it. You have, so that's how it's going. So I mean, you can't really, there isn't a real political process going on. And to say the truth, you know, being here, the United States have been mediating the recently resumed, more than 6 months now, 9 months, direct Palestinian-Israeli peace talks. I mean, the United States being a mediator, I think that's part of an not so funny joke. I mean, the U.S. cannot be a fair mediator to the political process while it grants Israel billions of dollars to, you know, enabling them to continue their illegitimate occupation of Palestine, to build and expand settlements. It's American tax money that is funding this occupation, and we need to stop that. So having that said, I think it is very essential. The work that each and every one of us does affects and impacts people around them. I believe that, you know, we as Palestinians, as Americans, as Europeans, as Israelis, we have the moral duty and responsibility to correct the actions of governments and to end injustice. There are, of course, different ways to do that. Contacting officials, protesting works. I mean, it's usually a good idea. Politicians and lobbyists and lobbies, that's what they do, you know, they lobby. And we need I had to, say to lobby because that sounds like, lobbies are all run by corporations and aren't motivated by justice. But we as people, we can impact the politicians, and we can lobby, we can protest, we can demand the governments, we can demand our government here in the United States to stop being involved in crimes and massacres in the name of peace and justice and in the name of spreading democracy around the world. And they use this term a lot, democracy. Israel uses the term a lot too, they keep saying that we are the only democracy in the Middle East, and that's why they want to get rid of us. But whether we like it or they like it or not, I mean, we had elections in 2006, and there have been American and European observers, and the U.S. and Israel didn't like the outcome. Everybody testified and saw that those elections were democratic, were fair. The Palestinians voted, expressed their will, but because the U.S. and Israel didn't like the outcome, they had to arrest the majority of the elected officials and legislators, and then they had to put Gaza under siege and so on. So it's not that. It seems like the outcome of democracy isn't always what governments seek, and the definition of democracy varies from one country to the other based on, do we like the democratic outcome of the election or not? If we don't like it, like how the U.S. and Israel do, if we don't like it, then we go to war. We then isolate them, and we've seen like the Gaza Strip is under siege until this moment. I mean, people are dying. Hundreds of patients are dying because of the lack of access to medical attention, medical treatment. There are no medications, medical equipment that fails. They don't find spare parts. And patients are dying just because of the siege. And there has been an Israeli official who said, like, we're putting the Gazans on a diet. Of course, it's an Israeli imposed diet that led to all of those deaths. So the treatment of Palestinians and the way they look at the Palestinians is like the Palestinians aren't human beings. We can invade, we can assassinate, we can imprison, and then we put them on diet. And we keep them under siege with the hope that they will bow down and surrender. But the Palestinian nation, as any other nation that is seeking justice, liberation, and independence, I think by now the occupiers need to realize that we are a nation that doesn't surrender. We are a nation that doesn't bow down to anybody. We are a nation that is seeking justice, liberty, and independence. And we are seeking peace. We are willing. I think it's not a big deal for the Palestinians and Israelis to live together in peace and justice, but the Israeli government need to end this occupation, end the oppression, and achieve real independence and real justice guaranteed by international law. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Saed. So now we're going to hear from Jose Moreno, who was recently released from the Northwest Detention Center, and is working with Not One More campaign.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es José Moreno. Tengo 25 años y soy originario de México, Matamoros, Tamaulipas.
Good afternoon. My name is Jose Moreno. I'm from Mexico, Matamoros, Tamaulipas, and I'm 25 years old.
A partir de la acción del No One More Deportation Campaign, que del 24 de febrero, que un grupo de activistas estuvieron haciendo afuera del centro de detención.
Since the Not One More Deportation campaign did an action on February 24 with a group of activists outside the Northwest Detention Center,
Nosotros decidimos, de hecho, en la ven que ellos trataron de parar ese día, yo estaba ahí.
we decided to start working. As a matter of fact, one of the vans they stopped, I was in one of those vans.
Vi como un grupo de gente quiso parar la ven en la que íbamos nosotros y a partir de eso, escuché a la gente que estaban diciendo que no estábamos solos. Ya habíamos estado sintiendo todos estos problemas, todas estas represiones en contra de nosotros allá adentro, pero nunca nadie se había animado pues, a hacer algo.
So I saw a group of people trying to stop this van where I was in, and I was actually able to hear them chanting, "You're not alone." And a group of us were already thinking of the things we were going through, such as the retaliation and abuse inside the detention center.
A partir de esa acción, yo iba en la VEN y cuando regresé al centro de detención, les dije a mis compañeros lo que yo había visto afuera.
So I was in the van, and from then, when the van returned back to the detention center, I went in and I told my comrades what I just witnessed.
Les dije que había un grupo de gente afuera queriendo parar las deportaciones. Y les dije que deberíamos de hacer algo para apoyar a la gente que estaba afuera.
And so I told them there was a group of people outside trying to stop deportation, and I told them that we should be doing something to support the group outside.
Ya se había rumorado que querían hacer una huelga de hambre, pero no se animaban. Entonces me junté con 5 personas y que se animaron que querían hacer algo, y nosotros estuvimos organizando cómo es que íbamos a hablar con la gente para animar a la gente que se uniera con nosotros.
And so there were rumors around putting together a hunger strike, but people have not decided yet. So 5 of us came together and decided we want to do it. We start talking about how to organize it and how to convince others.
Nos juntamos nosotros y empezamos a hablar con la gente, tratar de persuadirla para que nos acompañara. Pues claro, mucha gente tenía miedo y no quería hacerlo. Nos dividimos los grupos y primero empezamos a organizar nuestra unidad porque adentro son tanques de 80 personas, con capacidad de 80 personas para cada tanque.
And so we began and we started talking how to persuade the other ones to join us. Many people were afraid to do this. So we decided to divide ourselves by pods or units. Each of the pods holds about 80 people each.
Esto pasó el martes. El miércoles empezamos a hablar sobre eso, tratar de que no se nos escuchara para que no nos fueran a tomar represalias contra nosotros. Decidimos que cada quien debería organizar en su parte. En la noche, para el otro día nos juntamos, hicimos una pequeña junta para ver cuántas personas eran las que estaban dispuestas a acompañarnos.
And so that planning began on Tuesday. By Wednesday, we came together, we talked. We wanted to make sure that we would be here in the outside because we were afraid of retaliation in the inside. During the night, we continued organizing and then came back together again on a meeting to find out how many people would join us.
Alcanzamos un grupo como de 15 personas más o menos. De esas 15 personas se empezaron a unir más y más y más. empezamos a tratar de ver cómo es que íbamos a tener comunicación con las otras unidades, puesto que es bien difícil, no puedes hablar con nadie.
And so a group of about 15 came together, and then little by little, more and more joined. We start wondering, how do we actually get in communication with other pods, because the communication with other areas is really difficult.
Una de las cosas en las que yo siempre les decía a la gente que para que nos acompañaran, porque ya estas injusticias se han venido viendo desde hace mucho tiempo, pues prácticamente diciéndoles que, bueno, es la pura verdad que no tenemos nada que perder, ya no, que más no nos pueden hacer más nada, nos tienen prácticamente encarcelados. Yo no llamo esto un centro de detención, yo llamo esto una cárcel.
So one way I told people we should be able to convince the other was to say that what we were talking about, what was happening, was already true and had been happening for a long time. I told people there's nothing to lose. There's no more we can lose, because although this is called a detention center, I call it a prison.
Es muy triste, el tiempo que yo estuve ahí por 5 meses peleando mi caso. Es muy triste ver cómo cada semana deportan tanta gente que merece estar aquí y que tienen hijos. Más duele mucho ver cómo están separando familias y ver a los padres que dejan a sus hijos y a sus familiares aquí.
So it's really sad. While I was there for 5 months fighting my case, and every week I would see people being deported, people that should remain in the country here with their kids, and how they're separating their families.
Yo no tengo familia aquí, pero no necesariamente tengo que tienen que separarme de mi familia para sentir el dolor que ellos estaban sintiendo.
I don't have family here, but you don't have to have one to feel their pain.
Somos humanos y como humanos no se nos están viendo ahí adentro.
We're human beings, and we're not being seen as human beings in the inside.
Más bien ellos nos ven con un signo de dólares en la cabeza.
Actually, what the detention center looks at us like is that we have a big money sign in our forehead.
Esto ya no se trata esto ya más bien se pierde el sentir humano y ya más bien se hace somos para ellos una máquina de hacer dinero.
So basically what's been happening is that the humanity has been lost, and we're nothing but a money machine to them.
Para todas estos grupos que son como el grupo GIO que maneja todas las detenciones a nivel nacional.
This is happening for groups such as GEO Group Incorporated, that they're managing these detention centers around the nation.
Varias de las demandas que nosotros estábamos pidiendo es la comida.
So there were several demands we were asking for, and one of them was about food.
La comida básicamente era arroz sin sabor, frijoles sin sal, papa hervida sin sal y soya.
Basically, the food that we were given was pretty much rice with no flavor, beans with no salt, and boiled potato with no salt either.
Y soya.
Oh, and soy. Thank you, I forgot.
Básicamente era todo lo que se nos estaba dando. No obstante, eran porciones pequeñas.
So that was basically all we were fed, and the portions were really small.
No se nos daba carne, en cambio se nos daban carne falsa.
Instead of regular meat, we will get mock meat.
Teníamos, te podrían dar pollo, pero eso te lo tenías que ganar limpiando todo el espacio de ahí adentro.
If you were to be eating chicken, you actually have to earn it by working.
Aparte de que eran pequeñas, el servicio médico es pésimo. Yo no creo que ellos tengan doctores capacitados, más bien nunca los tienen. Solamente cuando vas al médico, lo único que hacen es drogarte porque te dan pastillas para dormir.
Besides the small portions of food, medical services are terrible. I don't believe they actually have real doctors in there. When you go in and you want to have medical service, all you get is pills, so you're drugged throughout.
Más bien yo lo veo como que te quieren dormir para que no estés jodiendo.
The way I see it, they want you sleepy so you don't complain.
La comisaria, que está manejado por Gio, los precios de las llamadas telefónicas son demasiado altas. El trato de los guardias, muy déspotas, están abusando del poder que tienen. No necesariamente nos tienen que decir palabras para hacer algo para que nos duela. Hay muchas formas en que ellos abusan de su poder. Ellos tienen también un programa que es trabajo voluntario, entre comillas, de donde te pagan $1 por día de trabajo.
In the commissary, which it's managed by Gio, the prices are really high. The phone service prices are really high. The treatment we receive by the guards, sometimes they abuse their power, and it's not really so much about what kind of words they use against you. There are many ways that they abuse their power against us. There's also a program called the Voluntary Work Program where they pay us $1 a day.
Donde a mí se me hace no tiene sentido, puesto que vivimos en un estado donde es uno de los estados con el salario mínimo más alto de Estados Unidos.
To me, this doesn't make any sense because we're in the state where we have the highest minimum wage.
Y el gobierno está de acuerdo que estas corporaciones tengan este programa.
And government, it's okay with corporations running this kind of programs.
Esa no es otra manera más que nos demuestren cómo ellos están haciendo dinero de nosotros.
That's but another way to show how they make money out of us.
Otra de las demandas es la discreción de los jueces.
Other of our demands included judge discretion.
Solamente tienen 3 jueces allá adentro, tienen 3 cortes, 3 jueces para más de 1,400 personas.
They only have 3 judges for more than 1,400 people.
Y las que van llegando y las que siguen en el proceso.
And the ones that arrive later on and the ones that continue during their process.
Yo he visto infinidad de casos donde son injustas las decisiones que están tomando. No tienen una base en donde toman sus decisiones.
I've witnessed an infinite number of cases where there have been ruled in not in a good way, and it seems that they have no real base for the decision.
He visto casos que son prácticamente similares, pero con diferentes jueces. A una la deportan y a una le dan fianza. Yo me pregunto, ¿en qué se están basando para tomar decisiones? ¿Cuál es su discreción?
I've seen cases where with different judges and similar cases are presented, they will have different results. For one will be deported, the other one will have a bond. What does it really make the case for how their decisions are made?
Que paren las deportaciones, no solamente de quienes no tengan récord criminal o los que tengan. Eso no se trata de eso. Se trata queremos ya una reforma justa, no solamente, como les vuelvo a repetir, para las personas que tengan récord o no récord. Queremos una reforma justa para todos.
And we want to stop deportations. And this is not just for a few or just for the deserving ones. It doesn't matter if people have criminal record. What it should happen is that real immigration reforms should happen with dignity and humanity, and it should be for everybody.
A partir de la huelga que nosotros hicimos, nos han se nos ha escuchado y ese era el objetivo. Teníamos miedo de que se nos fuera a tomar represalias, en los cuales ellos están haciendo. Tenemos a 3 personas todavía que siguen en huelga de hambre y los han puesto en aislamiento, el cual significa que solamente tienen derecho a bañarse 3 veces por semana, no contacto humano, solamente con abogados y el juez. Queremos sacar a esa gente de ahí. Esto no es otra manera. Imagínate, si ahorita están haciendo con toda la atención que hemos logrado de los medios de comunicación hacer esto con ellos, ¿qué sería si nosotros no tuviéramos toda esa atención? Lo mismo que está pasando en Texas, que no tienen el apoyo suficiente que nosotros afortunadamente tenemos aquí afuera de todos ustedes también. En Texas están en el Conroe también. No solamente eso, tenemos en España, en Canadá también están haciendo lo mismo. Esto nos demuestra que las cosas, las mismas demandas están pasando en todos lados, pero gracias a lo que nosotros hemos hecho y lo que hemos logrado, se están dando cuenta que tenemos el derecho de hablar, nosotros tenemos el derecho de defendernos, podemos hacerlo.
So the hunger strike continues. We wanted to be heard, and we were able to be heard. But still with that, there are people that were retaliated against. We have 3 people right now in hunger strike, and they were placed in solitary confinement. They can only shower 3 days a week. They can only see their lawyers or special visitors. We want them out. We don't want them in hunger strike, in solitary confinement anymore. And imagine with all of this media attention that we have brought up to this issue, what would happen if we didn't? What would be the retaliation look like? Also in Texas, in Conroe, there's been a hunger strike as well, but they didn't have enough support like we have here with all of you. Therefore, it has been more difficult for them. Also in Spain and Canada, they have joined us because it seems then that our demands are the same across the world. They're like that everywhere. And really, thanks to our work that we have done here, is that now people are beginning to pay attention.
Nosotros creemos que puede haber un cambio y creo que esto, al momento que lo hicimos, nosotros no esperamos nada. No esperábamos que todo esto fuera a tomar tanta importancia y porque solamente el espíritu de la gente que animó a hacer esto fue en sus familias. Por las familias mucha gente está ahí peleando sus casos, no solo por meses, por años.
When we began this, we believe, and we still believe, that a change can happen. But we did not expect such an attention. It's really because of people's spirit, because they want a change for all their families, that this was achieved.
Y porque creemos que se puede lograr un cambio, es que lo hicimos. Si no hubiéramos creído que pudiéramos lograr un cambio, simplemente no lo hubiéramos hecho.
If we didn't believe that change can actually happen, we would have not done this.
Necesitamos apoyo para estos líderes, porque ellos son unos verdaderos líderes los que están allá adentro haciendo esto.
We want and we need your support, especially for our leaders in the inside, because they need your support immediately.
Y creo que ya es tiempo que Obama, que hemos estado esperando tanto tiempo que se nos haga una reforma migratoria. Él puede hacerlo. No ha querido, es muy diferente. Queremos que ya haga algo porque esto se está saliendo de las manos. Son demasiadas deportaciones. En cambio, se nos ha dado 2 millones de deportaciones desde su administración.
And we believe that it's time for Obama to actually do something. He said that he would give us immigration reform. We know he could do it, but he doesn't want to do it. But there's many things he can do in the meantime, because there's been too many deportations already, 2 million.
Así que queremos que ya no haya ni una más deportación.
So basically, we want all deportations to stop.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Jose. The last speaker we're going to hear from is Kimberly. We're going to hear about her time incarcerated and how it disrupted her family and how she's put it all back together and funneled it into the important work that she does now around juvenile justice.
Thank you. So I just want to start off by saying that I graduated with an MPA in 2010 in these rooms, so I'm a greener. So I'm a 50-year-old mother. Okay. I'm 51 years old. I'm a mother. I'm a policy advocate, and I'm also a program manager, and I'm an outreach person for my church. So I do a lot of helping lives change. I'm going to tell you a little bit about me, and then talk about a program that I created that helps that I manage also, that and the philosophy and approach that I think can be funneled in different systems, particularly incarceration systems. My story's a little different than the other panel members because I committed crimes, and that's why I was incarcerated. But I'd like to share just a little bit of my story, sharing with you how people get there. And my story is similar to a lot of former prisoners. I was raised by both my parents, and I was a middle child of 3. My father was in the military, and I was raised in bases all over the United States and abroad. And we moved a lot, and this happened until my dad retired when I was 12. And we moved in here in Washington after he served for 22 years in the Army, and then he got a job in the shipyard. My mother was a federal employee, a civil service employee all these years, so life was comfortable. We had a lot of family time, church, camping, vacations, and a lot of love and kisses and hugs. And then that all stopped when I was turned 13. My dad's alcoholism caught up with him, and our lives began to unravel. My dad began squandering lots of money, gambling, and getting rolled for his money by his drinking buddies, and missing a lot of work. And my mother started to withdraw. She's very loving and attentive, and she withdrew from the stress of trying to keep everything together, look good in front of everyone, lie to his boss, and why he's passed out on the floor saying, no, he's sick again. And the stress that she had, and so me and the children, we became emotionally kind of on our own. And my father was not a mean drunk. He was a very irresponsible drunk. So the way I responded and my siblings responded, we started hanging out with the bad crowd because our parents were very overprotective. They gave us everything and anything, kind of spoiled, rotten, monster brat kids. And they never made us accountable for our actions, our behaviors. I was blaming our friends for trouble we got in when we were the ringleaders. So that wasn't a good start either. So having all that, we navigated to that crowd, and I started experimenting with drugs, marijuana and alcohol and pills, black beauties, blah, 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 and just started trying to find acceptance and some kind of stability elsewhere. I did a stint in the Air Force when I turned 18, thought that it straightened me out. Didn't work. I had a really high IQ, which is a blessing, and I was put into electronics. So in that time in that field, I was the only black and female in that electronics. So, when I heard about this AIG thing, every time I got in trouble, I would go say discrimination. So I did play the race card. I did. It was wrong, and it got me out of trouble. But still, I still was never, just a person just staying in trouble, not really hurt and damaged. When I got out, my dad was clean 5 years later, but the damage was still done, so I got married, started having children, and by then I discovered cocaine. And if anybody knows, drugs and parenting do not go together. I'm an example. Drugs and parenting do not go together, and so I began to have a cycle of using drugs and selling them, because for me, as my addiction increased, I never had a stomach for prostitution, and a lot of the women don't have the skills or the IQ to survive and feed that craving, so I never looked back down on anyone who prostituted. I was just grateful that I didn't have to, so I used my mind to gain access to drugs by doing income tax scams, ATM scams, check scams, loan scams, any kind of scam, and then I started selling it and using it, and I had so much, and then in hindsight, I learned that it actually hijacks your pleasure sensors and your well-being and all that, and so I couldn't parent, and so CPS came into my life multiple times, and so after losing my first set of children, and then through systemic barriers, precluded me from getting my other ones, even though I wanted to. The system was very broken back then, child welfare system. It's much better now. So I ended up losing children. So for me, I had one stint in prison where I lost one, and so basically after losing 7 kids, after the first 4, I just started staying here to the state whenever I got pregnant because I didn't know I had any power or any rights. That's changed too now. My parents are informed. And so my cycle of just selling drugs, I smoke more drugs, I sell more drugs, I smoke more drugs, I sell more drugs, I smoke. That's why I was too scared to die, but I was too hurt to live, so I was stuck. And then so one day I just began to cry out. People would see me and they say, Kim, you're so intelligent, you're so sweet, you're nice, you're smart. Why don't you just get your life together? And I would at that point, I had so much self-loathing, grief. A lot of people who keep committing crimes, there's so much grief, loss, self-loathing, and all that comes with it, and despair. So I would tell them, well, how dare I get my life together? How dare I get my life right, and my kids may be suffering, which they were, some of them, I found out later. And so that kept me in that cycle. So one day I was just so stunned, and I looked up, and I remember my mother, she was very too much into the Lord, and I just started crying out to the Lord, and just for 5 months straight. And then my rescue came in the form of an arrest. I was arrested, and this was my 49th crime, 23rd felony, and I was looking at a minimum of 5 years to 9 years. And I escaped and bail jumped because they caught me twice and I got away. Bailed out, jumped, and so I was looking at almost 9 years. And while in there, I found out I was pregnant. So I kind of thought so, but I'm not trying to feel nothing. I couldn't feel nothing. I stayed high, literally. I had a pill bottle I carry around. People think it's like, what's that for? I said, it's my medication. And I said, take every 15 minutes. Kimberly May, see? Take every 15 minutes as needed for pain, emotional. Every 15, 20 minutes, I would have to take something and then sleep one day on. So anyway, and so when I did that, I got there, they came to me, I'm looking at 9 years, I'm pregnant, oh my God, and I was at my end, and I just gave my will and my life over to I called my higher power, which is who I call God, and did that, and I started changing, and I started reading books on literature on, I was in there 3 months, and then keep this, 3 months, and I just started reading literature on how to turn my life around in the Bible and all that, and I found this scripture, which was on Channel 13 News, I have the video, Channel 13 News, and it said, if I return from my wicked ways and return unto him, he would have mercy and pardon me. So that pardon said, won't, and I was like, oh my God, I was telling everybody to say, I'm not going to prison, look, I've turned my will over, I'm not going to prison. So they were like, right, you got freaking 23 felonies, you're going to prison. So I just started changing, and I was very much like my own person, man/girl, when I was out there, and I would just anyway. So people would cuss me out, whatever. I would start changing because I would say, oh, I'm so sorry, please forgive me if I offended you. Like, who's that? So I changed, and then on July 1st, about a month in, my lawyer was fighting hard, I'm pregnant, he's like, he came with a plea. He said, here, there's a 43-month plea. He was so excited. He's like, I got 43 months, Kim, sign here. I said, I'm so sorry, Travis. I can't sign that because God's gonna get me out. So by then, I'd been voluntarily committed twice in mental health facilities, involuntary committed straitjackets and all that because I was over sad. Now, crazy and over sad are they're similar, but they're different. I was not crazy. I was over sad, but I was diagnosed. People would say, they would call me Crazy Kim. I didn't know it was me for a long time. I was like, who's that girl? She sounds really cool. It was me. So anyway, so they brought them to me, and I wouldn't change my mind. Like I said, Travis, you know what? Be encouraged. God's going to do it. So I just busied myself changing, turning, loving on people. And the day of my trial, July 1st, 2004, I went to court. I was 7 months pregnant. I was shackled. And I'll have to change the shackling bill. That's later. I have to change that part, too. We don't do that no more in Washington State. But so I was shackled and went down to my trial. So anybody knows about criminal law, if you take anything to trial and you lose, you're going to get the high end automatically. It's just the known factor. So for me, not only did I not get the 9 years, but he came out shaking, like he had took a hit of drugs. He said, Kim, sign here. They're PRing you today. 0 to 12 months stipulated sentence. And he's all shaking. I'm like, Travis, oh my God, I told you guys going to do it. He's like, sign, stop playing. And then because he was worried that the sky would fall or something, they would change their mind. But so that's how I got out. And while I was in there, this mental health professional who started to be a birth to 3 person came in and started mentoring me and supporting me. And that's where I just want us to remember. This is how I changed. Not only did my higher power get me out, which I didn't know yet, but she came and started seeing me and loving on me and get me set up for services. My lawyer told her by that time, when I didn't take the plea, so it's like 2 weeks before my trial, he said, I'm so sorry. He was almost in tears. He said he really liked me. And he said, I'm so sorry. The prosecutors, they withdrawn their plea. They're gonna go for 108 months. So they're not only mad, they're gonna go for the high end. And anyway, he told her to stop looking, but she didn't. So that's a little thing going on behind the scenes. And she's at my hearing, and she saw me miraculously get out, and she's waiting for me at the gate. She had already set me up a bed date at the Harborview Swedish Hospital / treatment, where I gave, where I was be at until my baby was born, which was like 2 months later, it's supposed to be born. And so that was a miracle. And then when I got there, a week later, I went into emergency distress. That I had 5 minutes to be wheeled into C-section, and my baby was delivered. They told me if I'd been in prison or jail, my baby would have died, and I could have died too, because it was a bit of slow death, no one would have known, and you don't have very good medical in prison. So that was my second miracle, and her name is Heavenly Miracle. I named her that. And so when I got out, everything's all good, and so I'm really excited. I got a new chance in life. I enrolled in college. I got my little job, and I was trying to go to get things ready for the school. I got my little place, and someone told me to call. And back then you couldn't get welfare because if you had drug crimes in 2004 before they changed the law. So was struggling on $300, and I called. They said, call CFWS. That's not CPS. That's different. So I said, okay, they're going to help you with daycare. So I called CFWS. It's Kimberly Mays. I'm just need some daycare for some help. Blah blah blah. Oh, an hour later, all my old workers. So by then, okay, I'm sorry. I lost 9 kids different times in the system through CPS. Too little, too late. A lot of systemic barriers where I did not. At one point, so that's my history, right? So they're like, oh my God, you had a baby. This is one of my old workers. So I said, it's all good. I'm doing good. Come on out. Bring your work. They sent 2 workers out. They saw my place. By then, when I got out, I got volunteer. I went to DOC, so I needed treatment. And I made them give me treatment because I wasn't eligible anymore. And I wasn't leaving with this baby in one arm to try to get some treatment. They gave me, and I had this lady still with me. She's guiding me, right? She's a mental health professional and case manager. So that was my ticket. So anyway, they gave me treatment. So CPS came and they looked at my stuff and they said, oh God, you're doing such an awesome job. I'm showing them I was enrolled in college. I got a home nurse coming in, a case manager, maternity case management. Everybody coming to my home. I'm in church. I'm volunteering. I'm in the choir. I'm just driving a van, going out in the community, getting every heroin addict, drug addict, alcoholic I can get in the van to church, helping change their lives, get them in college, doing awesome. So the next day said, well, find a daycare we'll pay for. The next day, 10:30 a.m. I was breastfeeding my baby. My life is great. I've changed. My life's beautiful. And they came and took my baby. And so I helped change that piece in the system too. So that doesn't happen anymore like that. But so that was my crossroads. So usually when disappointments and tragedies happen, and so without great support, addicts relapse. Okay, so I turned my will and my life over to the care of God, and continued, and I got my kid back. But I did it so successfully. I started school, college. I did it so successfully that they shut at my dismissal. So every time I come into court, they couldn't tell me to do anything because I'm doing everything. So my little ISSP was this long. I could have done that when I was home, with my child at home. Anyway, continued, brought my A's into court. They shut the courtroom down, had a party, shut the courtroom down, and asked me to start this work 8 years ago in Pierce County with Brenda Lopez. We started Parents for Parents. It's a program that helps parents get their kids back. Within a year, the rates of parents getting their babies back were increased by 38%. People were getting their kids home. I'm grooving and grooving. And so 2.5 years into that, I found another scripture that said my kids are coming home. Someone said, oh, look at this, my kids are coming home. No one believed me. One by one, weird science after weird science, I have 8 of my kids in my life, and there's no way you can explain it. And the stats of finding a child under the age of 18 is 0 to, like about 1,000 million, to try to find one kid. I found 8. And each parent, adoptive parent, when I found them, one put a no contact order on me, all of them said no, hell no, because it's paperwork, right? Then each one called me back saying, God said it's time to see your kids. So I have them in my life now. Over the last few years, I've dedicated, I created this program, I made it a statewide model. We're a statewide model now. We have a lot of training components. All my VPs are hand-walked into college, so we're all getting our AA, they're getting their AA, BAs, and master's degree right now, simultaneously in the GEDs. We sit on policy tables with all the people, the people they worked with, their bosses, changing the laws and policies in child welfare and offender reentry. And we help mentor them to, then they're able, most of them have, a lot of people in child welfare have incarcerations or getting out of jail and prison, and or have criminal behavior, which gives them a less chance of getting their kids home. So all of them are now working with agencies just like myself who never hired people who have felonies. I'm the first King County Superior Court, whoever, you can't even have many misdemeanors, much less a felony, and I have 23. So they have to change their policies, work for Girl Scouts Beyond Bars, working with at-risk foster youth, taking their kids into prison to see their moms, worked for the Washington State Senate for Senator Adam Klein. My references today are legislators, heads of state, because that helps offset our criminal history also. So what we teach people is the best ways to help reduce recidivism and to help the system itself at the same time, helping people not go back in and helping the system change its policies and practices is a couple things. One, education reduces recidivism, the DV, the abuse, the mental health, all the stuff that we come into prison with. Those things, education helps you socialize you and reduce all those things and helps you find services for that. So it helps reduce our prison population, and it also helps us helps offset our criminal histories. It makes them have 2 pictures to look at, so we have a better chance of being employed, and it helps break down barriers to employers and employment that never would hire us. But it also changes the system. What I learned from all the people I've hired over the last 8 years and who've gone on to do great things, everyone's been on TV. All of us have been on TV multiple times, Channel 4, 5, 7, 7. We're asked to go speak everywhere because the return, what I learned is the biggest thing we can do in this society is invest in our most valuable resource, and that is human beings. The return is triple. I go out in the community, there's like about 100 and some people in the last 8 years in my community and outside of my work who are law-abiding, college-educated parents today. So if we start investing in all of our citizens from all these junctures, people, human beings, lives, take back our government, take back our policies. And because if we're able, us, this little small 30-some group of parents over the last 5 years, I got 5 pictures of the governor on the wall for helping change his laws in our state, the shackling law and all that, going from house to house. If just a handful of people are able to impact policies, and all of us in these rooms, the Evergreeners, we're good for that, are able to impact policies. Just imagine if we, the people, took back our government at the same time and put human beings as our priority again. Thank you.
So I'm curious from these panelists how does the fact that you're a survivor of torture, incarceration, detention, and you're not out, and many of the panelists up here, actually all of them, are still in a line of fire. It's not like it's over. How does that inform your work, and how do you manage your own recovery as a survivor? And I'll hear from any or all of the panelists.
Should I start?
Yeah, please.
Well, I think, to me, surviving, an attempt on my life that was that brutal and that, impacted me for the rest of my life means that, I have a message that I need to deliver, and I managed to live, and I try to deliver it every time I can. I've known a lot of Palestinians who've been killed, who've been imprisoned, who've been tortured. A lot of my friends have been tortured. And I think we just need to keep on, and we need to keep the struggle going, and we all need to get together and fight for justice, equality, And I think what keeps me going, doing the type of job I do, in journalism also, helps me a lot to express what I want to say, and taking into consideration that, when I was a teenager and, being chased by the soldiers, I was also reporting. I wasn't, working for somebody, but I was reporting, and I was in contact with a number of newspapers, especially one of them that was in Jerusalem. And that also because, at age 16, I had my column in that newspaper, and that got me on the wanted list, or the, troublesome list thingy. But we need, we need to push. We need to keep fighting for justice and human rights all together, no matter where we live. We just have to keep the spirit.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
Maybe we should use this one.
Yo creo que lo único que me mantiene a mí en la lucha es de todo el tiempo que yo estuve ahí adentro. Conocí a muchas personas, muchas injusticias, y es por eso de que yo me siento con esa responsabilidad, porque cuando yo salí, ellos querían que yo fuera la voz de ellos, diciendo todas las injusticias que están pasando con ellos. Entonces yo ahorita me siento con esa responsabilidad, y es lo que me mantiene ahorita de lucha. Y creo que los tres que estamos aquí en este panel estamos con un mismo objetivo, que son los derechos humanos.
I think that what keeps me going is that when the time I was inside there, I got to know a lot of people, and I got to see a lot of injustices. So now I feel obligated to be out here and become their voice, to share with you and with everybody all the injustices that are still happening in there. And what unites us, the three of us here, is that we have the same objective, that we're fighting for human rights.
Can you repeat that question, please?
How does what you've survived and what you've suffered inform the work that you do? Does it make it difficult to manage, or does it help you do the work, or a little both?
So my experience, it's both bitter and sweet. Oh, my experience is both bitter and sweet for me, my experience in working in the systems. Now it's sweet because I have the ability to help meet parents right where they are and train other parents to do the same, and human beings right where they are, to help them move from maladaptive thinking and beliefs and values to more adaptive ones, and help them see that change, get them children home. It's been my dedication and passion after learning what my children experiences, the molestation, the hardships that they experience in foster care, that no child, that children should have a better chance of going home, which is all vicariously through the parents, all on the parents. And then also that I realized from my own experience in my education, my master's, AAB and master's was all tailored around child welfare and the laws and practices and offender reentry systems, et cetera. And so what I learned was that that if I don't go inside and use that experience and education to help change the stigmas that are involved, we also help change stakeholders' minds. So stakeholders have come and said, we've reinvigorated their hope. So my role is if I had an attitude or an axe to grind, then I couldn't be effective. So I partner with the systems to help them see where they err, help change that way. And so for me, it's sweet in that manner, but then it's bitter because I relive my own experience every single day. Every single day, I relive the disappointments I caused my children.
And Kimberly, you got me started on the second question. What's the biggest stigma or the biggest obstacle, misunderstanding around the group that you're advocating for, as far as all these people here, when they go to talk to their friends and loved ones about these issues, what is it that you think we need to overcome as far as a stigma against the group that you're working for? Kimberly, you kind of
Yes.
started talking about that. Do you want to
Yeah.
add to it and finish
So
it?
I think I like to leave with it. People can change. People can change, and that's my thing with the right support. And I know for this system, it's high time. What I learned from grad school, when you have a problem, from Evergreen rather, you make sure you go with the recommendations. And so people can change, and it's time to have people, the populations that we are serving at the policy tables, the population that we're serving, that we want to serve at the planning and development and implementations of the programs and the policies that drive practices, the evaluation processes, and all of it, so that we can avoid unintended consequences and all these great things we're trying to do for people. Mm-hmm. We got to bring them at the table. So hopefully, and citizens, and as far as finding people in these different sectors, reentering prisoners, people who are involved in child welfare, if they can get a hand up, not a hand out, you could change a whole generation and generations to come. There's generations and curses being broken because of people like you who care at the policy tables, who stand up and say, let me give this person their first month's rent. I mean, it's cheaper to freaking house somebody for the department and the corrections and CPS to house a family for 6 months and is to pull their kids or keep their kids in care longer because there's no housing. Some crazy crap.
Great.
Sorry.
Thank you, Kimberly. So, Jose and Saed, the biggest misconception about Palestinians and/or immigrants?
Yo creo que el principal obstáculo que enfrentamos afuera es del hecho de que nos están criminalizando cuando esto que estamos, el hecho por el que estamos en esta detención es por un proceso civil, y los procesos civiles no se pelean en la cárcel. Los procesos civiles deberían de pelearse afuera, la gente con sus familias.
I think that one of the biggest obstacles we're facing as immigrants is that we're being criminalized. This is a civil proceeding, and civil proceedings should not be fought in jails. They should be fought while you're in home with your families.
Yes, I thank you for that last statement, being criminalized. It is true. People are being criminalized. People are, it's easy to label someone as a criminal, and it's absolutely easy and effective to label them as terrorists. Governments justify oppression and massacres and murders and annihilation by describing a certain group as a terrorist group or as a certain person as a criminal. In Palestine, it's a bit different when we talk about when we are talking about political prisoners. I mean, if we are talking about stigma, I mean, in Palestine it's different. When I go to prison, and I come out, I'm always a proud person to say, hey, I am a former political prisoner. It's because of the type of struggle we are in. But that doesn't mean that prisoners who are in for other reasons should be ashamed. I mean, I thought governments say that, those are correction facilities. And as people, societies need to work with prisoners regardless of why they were there, and if we want to fix our society, we need to work together in order to advance and go forward, not to isolate them and label them whatever labels we feel like.
Excuse me, can I say one more thing about that criminalization for us? That in the United States, addiction and mental health is criminalized like crazy, and it's a public health issue. And then for formerly incarcerated people, they say you can't work here, you can't live here, but stay out of trouble. How does that even work?
Yeah.
So, and the stigmas that people who are formerly incarcerated are the same people. You know what I'm saying, or bad people versus separating the worth from the behavior. And a lot of times, if we addressed our mental health and our addiction as a public health issue, we wouldn't even have that many. We'd have people that really need to be locked up, who hurt people, we'd have funding to even support them and not let them out without being treated if we would stop criminalizing those things that aren't crimes. All my crimes, I never hurt a human being. They called me Captain Save a Hole, Captain Save a White Person. That's what I was on the hilltop. And I would always save people. They made that because it was black people didn't like that. But I would save human beings. I don't care what color you were. And so anyway, I'm sorry.
Awesome,
I
great.
digressed.
Okay, great, thank you.